https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=cgstxiskm. Hold on to your seats, baby. Because the internet is officially in a state of absolute, unadulterated cardiac arrest. Just when you thought the absolute circus surrounding the GW Claressa Shields and hip-hop's most notoriously stoic husband Papoose had reached its messy peak, the bedroom door didn't just swing open, it was completely kicked off its hinges. Claressa went on a major live platform and dropped a jaw-dropping, toe-curling bedroom confession that has left the entire culture gasping for air. We are talking about details so wild, so incredibly intimate, and so profoundly over the top that public opinion didn't just shift, it completely shattered. Rumor has it, the moment those words left her mouth, Papoose officially lost whatever sanity he had left trying to manage this relationship. The memes are ruthless, the streets are whispering, and everybody is looking at Papoose like, "Is you safe, brother? Do we need to send a rescue team to the house right now?" We are pulling back the curtain on the shocker of the year. The exact words that sent Papoose over the absolute edge, and the undeniable proof that this love story has officially devolved into a high-stakes psychological thriller. Did Claressa just secure her crown as the most unhinged oversharer in digital history? Or did she just accidentally expose a reality that Papoose was desperately trying to keep buried under the rug? Buckle up, honey, because the tea is boiling, the receipts are freshly printed, and the absolute truth is about to explode right in your face. Baby, to understand why the internet is currently flatlining over this bedroom confession, we have to look at the players on this messy chessboard and the absolute house of cards they've been building. On one side, you have Claressa Shields, a woman who has literally built her entire legacy on being the greatest woman of all time in the boxing ring. She is used to physically dominating her opponents, stepping into the spotlight with absolute confidence, and never backing down from a fight. But honey, when it comes to her love life, she has swapped the boxing gloves for a megaphone, and she is broadcasting every single intimate detail to a public that never asked for it. On the other side, you have Papoose, a man whose entire brand for the last 2 decades has been built on absolute discretion, quiet loyalty, and a stoic old-school hip-hop masculinity. This is the same man who held down Remy Ma through a multi-year prison sentence, never complaining, never slipping up, and always maintaining a tight, unbreakable lid on his private life. But now, he has found himself attached to a woman who apparently does not believe in the concept of a private life at all. The contrast between these two is so jarring that it was bound to explode eventually, but nobody expected the explosion to come from inside the bedroom. This latest confession from Claressa didn't just cross the line of decency, it completely erased it. For months, the public has been watching this relationship with a mixture of amusement and genuine concern, watching Papoose slowly turn into a background character in his own life. The narrative used to be about their sweet, budding romance, but over the last few weeks, the cracks in the foundation have become impossible to ignore. People started noticing that every single time Claressa opened her mouth to defend her man, she ended up making him look smaller, less in control, and increasingly embarrassed. The internet started calling it the slow-motion demolition of Papoose's street credibility. And baby, they were not wrong. To make matters worse, this entire relationship has been plagued by a timeline that simply does not make sense. We are talking about a man whose divorce from Remy Ma is still floating around in legal limbo, yet Claressa is out here behaving like she is already the lawfully wedded wife, dropping songs, tattooing his name on her skin, and planning a whole future on public platforms. This is not just a woman in love. This is a woman who is performing love at a volume that is starting to sound like a desperate cry for validation. The public has been highly suspicious of her motives from day one, wondering if this is a genuine connection or a calculated attempt to secure a spot in the pop culture spotlight. Every time a new rumor drops, whether it's about her past relationships, her family drama, or her alleged timeline overlaps, Claressa's immediate reaction is to go live, get defensive, and start screaming at the screen. She is a world champion athlete, but she is letting anonymous internet trolls completely dictate her peace of mind. And that brings us directly to the moment the dam finally broke, because when you are constantly fighting the internet, you eventually say too much, and honey, she said way too much this time. The setting for this absolute disaster was a highly publicized live stream where Claressa decided she was going to address the haters once and for all. Now, usually when a celebrity goes live to address rumors, they have a publicist in their ear telling them to keep it brief, Keep it classy and don't give the trolls what they want. But Claressa clearly does not have those kinds of people in her circle, or if she does, she is completely ignoring them. She sat in front of that camera, looking directly at the comments rolling in, and instead of taking the high road, she decided to take us all the way into her private quarters. She started off by defending Papoos's honor, claiming that people don't understand the depth of their connection, and that what they have behind closed doors is something most people could only dream of. But then, baby, the conversation took a sharp turn into the deeply bizarre. She began describing the exact nature of their physical intimacy, breaking down what she expects from him, and what he allegedly delivers to her on a nightly basis. She used words and descriptions that left absolutely nothing to the imagination, painting a picture of a relationship that is so intense, so consuming, and so physically demanding that listeners were literally begging her to stop in the comment section. It wasn't just about the physical acts. She started describing the emotional dependency, claiming that she has Papoose so locked in that he cannot function without her presence. She bragged about how she has domesticated him, how he caters to her every whim, and how their bedroom activities are the glue keeping him from running back to his old life. The level of detail was so extreme that it felt less like a confession of love, and more like a public exhibition of dominance. It was as if she was trying to tell the world, and perhaps a specific ex-wife, that she has complete and utter ownership over this man's body and soul. The internet reaction was instantaneous and brutal. Within minutes, the screen recordings of her live stream were trending on every major gossip blog, and the comment sections were filled with absolute horror and disbelief. People were pointing out how incredibly disrespectful this was to Papoose, a man who has spent his entire career keeping his bedroom business out of the streets. You could almost hear the collective gasp of the hip-hop community as they realized that the legendary Papoose was being spoken about like a prize pony on a public broadcast. This bedroom confession did not just exist in a vacuum. It immediately triggered a wave of reactions from people who have been waiting for this relationship to crash and burn. Anonymous sources close to the situation began leaking information to various media outlets, claiming that Papoose was absolutely mortified by the broadcast. According to these insiders, Papoose had no idea she was going to go live, let alone share the deeply personal details of their intimate life. The reports suggest that his phone was ringing off the hook with calls from old friends, industry peers, and family members, all asking him the same question. Why is your woman talking like this on the internet? The level of embarrassment he allegedly felt is described as monumental, with sources claiming he went completely dark on his inner circle for days just to avoid the mocking questions. The public reaction was even worse, with social media users creating endless memes, parody videos, and mocking voiceovers of Claressa's confession. The narrative quickly shifted from them being a power couple to Papoose being a victim of a public humiliation campaign. People started analyzing his past interviews, comparing his stoic demeanor to her loud, aggressive energy, and the consensus was overwhelming. Papoose has lost control of his own narrative. The streets that once respected him for his quiet strength were now laughing at him, viewing him as a man who has traded his dignity for a front-row seat to a circus. And baby, the fallout was only just beginning, because when you expose that much of your private life, you invite everyone to come in and start poking at the ruins, which is exactly what happened next as the legal and professional consequences of this public display of affection started to take shape. The social media bloodbath did not stop with memes and mock videos, because once you throw open the doors to your private sanctuary, the entire world feels entitled to walk in and start rearranging the furniture. Industry insiders began whispering that this latest public relations disaster had reached a point of no return for Papoose's professional circle. For decades, his reputation in the music industry was anchored by a very specific brand of street-certified respectability and corporate-adjacent credibility. He was the guy who could walk into a boardroom, negotiate a high-level deal, and then walk right back onto the block with his head held high because he moved with absolute precision and silence. But after Claressa's vivid, unfiltered description of their private dynamics went viral, major brands and potential business partners began looking at the situation with massive hesitation. According to multiple anonymous sources circulating within the hip-hop marketing space, at least 2 major brand partnerships that Papoose was quietly negotiating for late 2026 were suddenly placed on an indefinite freeze. Corporate sponsors do not want to be associated with a circus, And they definitely do not want their brand ambassadors associated with highly explicit, highly publicized bedroom confessions that border on public humiliation. The narrative of the stoic, mature veteran was completely eclipsed by the image of a man who is being publicly micromanaged and overexposed by a partner who refuses to filter herself. While the professional fallout was quietly mounting behind closed doors, the public court of opinion was holding a full-scale trial with no option for appeal. Fans of Remy Ma were having an absolute field day, using this moment to claim that Papoos's current predicament is the ultimate form of karma. The internet has a very long memory, and people were quick to point out the extreme contrast between how Papoose carried himself during his decades-long relationship with Remy versus how he is being presented to the world now. With Remy, there was an unspoken code of honor, a mutual understanding that their struggles, their triumphs, and definitely their intimate life remained strictly behind closed doors. Now, under the bright, unforgiving lights of Claressa's social media feeds, that code of honor has been completely shredded. Commenters began floods of speculation, suggesting that Papoos's stony, expressionless face at recent public events wasn't just a stylistic choice, but rather the face of a man who is deeply realizing the magnitude of what he has gotten himself into. Some social media commentators went so far as to analyze the physical distance between them in paparazzi photos, pointing out that Papoose consistently walks slightly behind her, looking down at his phone, while she beams for the cameras and controls the microphone. The narrative of Papoose being held hostage by his own relationship began to transition from a running internet joke to a widely accepted public theory. But the real crisis was brewing on the legal front, where the timing of this entire public spectacle could not have been worse. Legal experts and celebrity divorce attorneys began weighing in on how this massive public overshare could potentially impact the ongoing, highly complicated divorce proceedings between Papoose and Remy Ma. Although the former couple has tried to keep the official legal filings as quiet as possible, it is common knowledge in the industry that high-asset divorces are incredibly delicate, especially when it comes to the division of shared intellectual property, real estate, and marital assets accumulated over a long, highly successful marriage. When one party is publicly parading a highly explicit, highly committed new relationship before the ink on the divorce papers is even dry, it creates an absolute nightmare for the legal teams involved. Attorneys pointed out that Remy's legal team could easily use these public admissions, the timeline overlaps exposed by Remy herself, and Claressa's boastful claims of shared finances and future plans to paint a picture of marital misconduct or the dissipation of marital assets. By bragging about how locked in they are, how they plan their future, and how much they are investing in their new life together, Claressa didn't just embarrass Papoose. She potentially handed his ex-wife's legal team a massive chest of ammunition on a silver platter. To make matters even more chaotic, the pressure from the public scrutiny began to trigger a series of erratic, highly defensive moves from Claressa's camp. Instead of issuing a standard, polished public relations statement to quiet the storm, Claressa did exactly what her detractors expected her to do. She doubled down with absolute fury. She took to her secondary social media accounts to launch a series of blistering attacks against anyone criticizing her bedroom confession. She accused the public of being hypocritical, claiming that people celebrate toxic, destructive relationships in hip-hop culture, but want to tear down a strong, successful black woman who is simply expressing her deep, passionate love for her man. She claimed that the critics were just jealous of the fact that she was able to pull a legendary man like Papoose, and that the women hating on her were probably sitting at home single and miserable. But the more she screamed into the digital void, the more she proved the critics' point. Her defensive rants did not make her look like a woman who was secure and happy in her love. They made her look like someone who was desperately trying to convince herself that everything was fine while her entire world was slowly catching fire. The silence from Papoose's camp during this entire defensive campaign was deafening. Historically, Papoose has never been a man to let others speak for him, but in this instance, his complete lack of a public response spoke volumes. Industry insiders claimed that his team was actively begging him to release a statement to salvage his reputation, but he reportedly refused, opting instead to retreat further into the shadows. This lack of unity between the two began to create a massive rift in how they were perceived as a couple. If they were truly a united front, Papoose would have stepped up to defend her honor or at least validate her statements, but his absolute silence left Claressa standing on an island of her own making. The public began to speculate that the relationship was experiencing severe internal strain, with rumors circulating that explosive arguments were happening behind the scenes regarding her inability to keep their private life private. The ultimate irony of the situation was that Claressa, in her desperate bid to prove to the world how much control and influence she had over her man, had succeeded only in driving a massive, highly visible wedge between them. As the days went on, the narrative began to take an even darker turn as independent bloggers and internet detectives started digging deeper into the financial and personal background of the couple's shared ventures. With rumors swirling about a potential reality television deal or a joint media project designed to cash in on their high-profile romance, the public began to question if this entire relationship, including the shocking bedroom confession, was nothing more than a highly calculated, highly desperate publicity stunt gone horribly wrong. People began to look at the timeline of events, from the initial text leaks to the sudden birthday songs, the tattoos, and now the highly explicit interviews, and they realized that every single step of this romance had been perfectly synchronized with major media drops. The skepticism grew so thick that even their most loyal defenders began to step back, realizing that they might be watching a highly toxic, highly manufactured performance designed solely for clicks, views, and digital relevance. And baby, that skepticism was about to turn into absolute certainty as a brand new, even more damaging piece of evidence was about to be dropped into the public arena, changing the game completely. The digital atmosphere grew even more volatile when an independent gossip blog leaked what appeared to be an unedited audio recording of an argument between two individuals whose voices sounded suspiciously like Claressa and Papoose. In the brief, crackling audio clip, the male voice, sounding exhausted and deeply frustrated, could be heard pleading for privacy, saying that his entire career was built on respect, and that the constant social media spectacles were destroying his peace of mind. The female voice, filled with high-pitched emotion and defensive energy, fired back that she was the one taking all the heat for their relationship, and that if he truly loved her, he wouldn't care what the public had to say. Although neither camp officially confirmed the authenticity of the recording, the damage was already done. The internet treated the leak as gospel, and the narrative shifted from a simple case of oversharing to a full-scale emotional battleground. Fans began to analyze every lyric, every old interview, and every social media caption for hidden messages, turning the entire situation into a highly toxic interactive mystery. As the controversy reached a boiling point, the pressure began to affect their professional circles in ways that went far beyond frozen brand deals. Representatives from major athletic organizations and boxing promotions were reportedly growing uneasy with the constant, non-stop drama surrounding their star athlete. While Claressa's prowess in the ring is indisputable, the corporate world of sports sponsorship relies heavily on clean, marketable public images that appeal to broad family audiences and high-paying advertisers. Having your champion boxer constantly embroiled in internet mudslinging, text message scandals, ex-boyfriend timeline disputes, and highly graphic bedroom confessions on live streams is a public relations nightmare. Whispers began to circulate that certain high-level promotional events were being quietly postponed, with organizers citing scheduling conflicts, though industry insiders knew the real reason was to let the dust settle before putting Claressa back in front of a mainstream microphone. The very platform she used to elevate her name was now threatening to overshadow her historic athletic achievements, proving that the digital sword cuts both ways. Meanwhile, the street-level fallout for Papoose was becoming impossible to ignore. In the hip-hop community, respect is a currency that is incredibly hard to earn but incredibly easy to lose. For years, Papoose was viewed as a legendary lyricist who carried himself with the kind of dignity and street-smart intelligence that demanded respect in any room he entered. But now, when his name was brought up in podcasts, radio shows, and ciphers, it was no longer about his intricate wordplay or his legendary loyalty. It was about the latest wild comment his girlfriend made on a live broadcast. Old associates from his early mixtape days began distancing themselves, not wanting to be dragged into the social media circus. The quiet, respected corner of the culture that Papoose had carved out for himself was being completely flooded by the noisy, chaotic energy of reality television-style drama. The tragedy of the situation, as many longtime fans pointed out, was that Papoose wasn't even the one doing the talking. He was being dragged down by association, forced to watch his hard-earned reputation erode in real time while he remained locked in a silent, defensive posture. To make matters worse, the ongoing saga began to attract the attention of other high-profile internet instigators who saw an opportunity to capitalize on the chaos. Notorious social media trolls and commentary channels began dedicating entire multi-hour live streams to breaking down the psychology of the relationship, inviting relationship experts, body language analysts, and even former acquaintances of the couple to weigh in on the drama. The level of public dissection reached a point that was almost cruel, with people pulling up childhood photos, past relationships, and family histories to explain why these two were behaving this way. Every single move they made was put under a digital microscope, and any attempt to quiet the noise only seemed to make the crowd roar louder. It became a self-sustaining cycle of drama. Claressa would post, the internet would react, bloggers would dissect, Papoose would remain silent, and the speculation would double in size. The ultimate breaking point came when a prominent media personality openly questioned whether this entire relationship was legal, pointing out that if Papoose's divorce proceedings with Remy Ma were still active, the public display of a new, highly committed relationship could be interpreted as a form of legal provocation. This speculation sent shockwaves through the community, leading to intense debates about the boundaries of marriage, divorce, and public decency. Legal commentators on YouTube began producing detailed breakdowns of marital law, explaining how a judge might view Claressa's public declarations of love and financial unity in a court of law. What started as a spicy piece of celebrity gossip had officially transformed into a complex, multi-layered drama involving legal strategy, public relations survival, and the preservation of two highly valuable celebrity brands. As the curtain began to fall on this chapter of the saga, the reality of the situation became clear to everyone watching. There were no winners in this digital war. Claressa, in her desperate attempt to prove to the world that she had found her happily ever after, had instead exposed her deepest insecurities and invited a level of public scrutiny that no relationship could reasonably survive. Papoose, by choosing silence over confrontation, had allowed his own narrative to be completely hijacked, leaving his legacy at the mercy of the comment sections and gossip blogs. The relationship that was once presented as a beautiful, organic connection born from mutual respect had been reduced to a cautionary tale about the dangers of performing your personal life for an audience of millions. The truth had finally exploded, leaving behind a trail of damaged reputations, fractured families, and a public that was left wondering if anything they had witnessed was ever real in the first place, setting the stage for a final dramatic reckoning that would determine if this couple could ever recover their lost dignity. Indeed, that, honey, is where the truth completely explodes. When you have to scream your love story at the top of your lungs, broadcast your private bedroom business to the entire culture, and perform your relationship like it is a prime-time reality show, who are you really trying to convince? Are you trying to convince the audience, or are you just desperately trying